Hello, welcome to Wild West Garage. My name's Morgan, and we're standing in the new side of the shop, the new addition, the big mechanic shop, I guess you want to call it. Today we're not going to be doing any metal shaping. This truck's been in the shop before. If you've watched all of my videos, I know you have. I know you should. You've seen this truck before. It's been in here before. Did a whole bunch of work on it. It's got a small box Chevy in it, and when it came to me, it had some issues with the engine. We didn't address that at the time, so there was just so many other little things that needed to be done. Mainly the starter wasn't working properly and everything. Anyways, so got that all done. Did some work on the pulleys and whatnot. It only had one belt driving everything, so we changed that around. We got two belts now. So anyways, the engine in this truck is it was a fairly expensive engine. I don't know what he paid for it, but it was a lot. It was supposed to be like a 600 horsepower engine, crate motor. It came complete with carburetor and everything. So it's just a drop-in unit, but at some point, it developed a huge oil consumption problem. And when I had it here last time, the middle two plugs on the left side of the engine were terribly fouled. So I took, had them out, cleaned them up, and got it running pretty good. Did some tuning on the distributor. But since my buddy's taken it back, starting to run poorly again, of course, because it's oil fouling those plugs. And he says he's going through about a liter or a quart of oil for every tank of gas. So, and it does smoke really bad when you stand on it. So I'm gonna dive into it here, and first I'm gonna move the truck over to the hoist bay. And I'm thinking ultimately I'm going to have to pull the engine out. So anyways, I'm going to figure out what the heck's going on. So I'm just getting going on this oil consumption diagnosis thing here. So I thought, well, I better at least do a compression test to start out with. So I pulled all the plugs out, and the ones that were oily are oily again. And so I did the compression test, and this cylinder here, which is, I guess, what is that? It's number 3. It only makes 125 pounds, and the rest are between, well, there was one, the number 5 was 165. That's the next lowest one. And then the rest were 170 to 200. So and that's cold, and it is cold right now. It's like 2 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's down there, it's close to freezing. So ideally you want to warm the engine up before you do a compression test, but this thing has headers on it, and it's really difficult to get the plugs out. I didn't want to burn my hands, so just went ahead and did the cold. It told the story. So we've got one low cylinder. So I just pulled the valve cover off just to check the valve action, just to make sure that the valves are opening, and they are. So that's not causing the low compression. So it's either a burnt valve, which I doubt because of the oil thing. So I'm suspecting it's got a broken ring. So it's gonna have to dive right into it. So because this isn't a conventional setup here, and it's got custom parts and whatnot. So the last time this truck was in here, the oil pan had been hit, and there's a big hole in it right around here somewhere. So I welded the hole up, and I put this kind of skid plate, attached it to the oil pan, and it kind of sticks up in the front here to the point where it's gonna probably hook on the brake lines when I go to pull the engine out. So there's no room for this engine to slide forward when it comes time to pull it out. So I've got to move the transmission back so I can clear the ring gear out of the bell housing. So I don't know if you can see this, but I got this ratchet strap underneath the transmission pan, the front of the pan, I guess. Some blocks, and I just got it going across to the frame, wraps around the cab mount and comes back and hooks into a hole there, and then there's a hole in the frame there. So now I can slide the transmission back, and I've also bolted this plate or piece of angle iron on here. There's a convenient little slot there for one bolt. Just drilled a hole, another hole in this angle iron, and so I got the transmission cross member separated here, the two bolts that hold it in, and I've got that slid back quite a ways. Took the transmission mount out so I can lower the transmission down to get at the bell housing bolts. And so now I'm just about to take all the bell housing bolts out, and then I can slide the transmission back maybe an inch or two. That'll get the ring gear, clear the bell housing, like I said, then I can lift the engine out without having to move it ahead too much. So anyways, that should work. I guess I could have taken the transmission right out, but that's, you know, that's still a lot of work. A lot of stuff I don't have to disconnect. And then I don't have to struggle with it to get it in there. I mean, I do have a transmission jack, but it's up there. It can stay up there. I've got the engine raised up already about, I don't know, 6 or 7 inches. Now I got to pull the truck back. Got a winch on a 4-anchor here. Got to hook up the cable somewhere underneath. It's all clear.
There we go.
So I guess I should have pulled the intake manifold off first. I mean, I did the compression test that showed the low cylinder, so I just thought, okay, we've got a ring sealing problem, some kind of a sealing, compression sealing problem. But it, you know, looking at this gasket, look how much it shifted. Okay, so this was the cylinder that was oiling up. These are these two cylinders here were the ones that were oiling up the most. And you can see this gasket right here. Looks like there's two gaskets. There's two gaskets sandwiched together, yeah. So you can see right here, see that? That was completely off the head here, I think. This gasket has slipped down. So oils, you can see, actually, you can see that sort of darker area of the port there? That's where the oil was coming up into the cylinder, into the intake runner. Mine just flowing back the wrong way though, but I mean that's, take a look at the head. Okay, so this is the cylinder that was affected. This one and this one. These two had the most oil contamination in the spark plugs. I can't really see. So maybe that was just some kind of a mark that was left on there for some other reason. Anyway, so that's where the oil's coming up. That's the oil consumption problem right there. And look at that. I'm surprised it didn't. Yeah, so right, you can see on this one here, you can see the line of the head, and all this gasket is below the head. So there's no sealing going on there at all. Yeah, same as on this side. Yeah, you can really see that. So that was the most affected. This is a cylinder that's low. The compression's low on. And you can see where that corner of that gasket slipped down below the head there. And then this one too. So there we go. That would have solved the oil consumption issue for sure. So now I got to get this. Now I got to figure out what's causing the low compression. All right, you saw the head come off. So right away I noticed this. You see that different color there? And you can kind of see where, at least with my eyes, you can see there's a kind of a trail down below that. There's a kind of a mark. I don't know if it's from blow by but it does look like the piston rings making good contact there. Then you look at this side of the bore, and there's a spot right at the top there. You see that? Where the rings are not contacting the cylinder. So this cylinder, then there's another spot right there. It's kind of similar to the other side, where there's heavy contact. So could be a busted ring. I guess when I find out. It's almost like the cylinder isn't round. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it back on high speed and pull the piston out. Maybe somebody already saw this while I was blabbing away about that weird mark on the cylinder. But see that? See the line going between the steam hole and the bolt hole? That's a crack. And up top here too, right there. See that line? Crack. So, just want to take a look at the other side of the cylinder here. See, it's got some kind of, not as obvious, but kind of some strange markings there too. So I guess what's happening, because that bolt hole is compromised, when you tighten it up, because the threads are at angles, I guess, right? They're like the threads are like a wedge, basically. So it's spreading this apart, causing a high spot here, and that's why the rings are riding on this right here, right, and not beside it. So at least that's my story. Yeah, there's no ring gap there, so I can see down into the beside the piston. So I thought that because that's got that line there, kind of that hard line on one side, a little bit more than the other side, that was the like where the ring gap was, but it's not where the ring gap is. Anyways, yeah, so there's a high spot there. It's weird that it's such a straight line. Thought maybe the cylinder was cracked there too, but it's not. Yeah, so you can see there's crosshatch on either side of that dark spot there. So the rings aren't seating into the cylinder wall. You think they'd have a similar situation on this side? I think it is a little bit. It's not as obvious. Yeah, there's definitely some marking there of some sort, but it's not the same. This thing also had a bent push rod. So who knows what's gone on with this thing. So it got built, got installed. I think it got overheated once. That could have been what caused that cracking. Had the head gaskets replaced. And I would imagine that's when this gasket issue developed. They didn't put it on properly. And then, so now we're here. So we're gonna, we've got a 305 I'm gonna take a look at, clean it up, and maybe install it in this truck. All right, so a little disappointing. I just talked to my buddy, and he's, of course it's, it's disappointing for me, but, disappointing, upsetting for him, because he invested quite a bit of money in this engine. When he bought it, it was a crate engine. Like I think I've already explained that. I think it was rated at about 600 horsepower. It's a 408, I think, cubic inch. I'm not sure what he said, but so anyways, it's a lot of horsepower for a little S10. I was really looking forward to finding a fixable solution or a fixable problem. If it had a cracked ring or a busted ring, that would have been no big deal. I could just got a, maybe worst case scenario, I would have had to get a piston and hone the cylinder out and get it going. But at this point, it's just a boat anchor. That block is junk. It's just going to go to the scrap. So I'll just disassemble everything and store it somewhere. And I wouldn't build another 400 block. I salvage the crank. I guess it's got a 400 crank in it. You could put it in a 350 and make it 383. Have to, different rods and pistons maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure what the deal is anymore. But we could use the cam out of this engine and the heads for something else. So, anyways, that's what's going to happen to it. It's just a parts bin now. So anyways, next step is to find a replacement engine, and it's not going to be a 600 horsepower one. It's going to be I've got a 305 out back that I'm going to bring in here and take a look at it, and that's what's going to go in it. If it's decent, probably just throw a new cam in it and regasket it, and that'll be enough power to motivate this little truck. I think the guy that owns it's a little over it anyways, so he just wants it to be a nice driving truck. So that's what we're going to do. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.